Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will kindly retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will please rise and be led in prayer by the Reverend John L. Parks of Kenbridge Baptist Church in Kenbridge, Virginia. Reverend Parks.
Thank you. Good morning. Shall we pray? Almighty God, we are gathered here this day with much to accomplish and seemingly so little time. We each come with our own commitments from our own corners of the Commonwealth, but as we pause in this moment, draw our hearts together in thanksgiving, for we surely have been given many blessings. For a beautiful world and for eyes and ears to experience it, for work to do and for the health and strength to do it, for the joy of life and the friends and family with whom we share it, for our great nation and for the freedom we have to enjoy it, for this great Commonwealth and for the privilege that we have to serve it. For all these things and more, O God, we give you thanks. And as our hearts have joined in thanksgiving, now draw us together in one purpose, to preserve these blessings, to nurture, to invest, and multiply them, so that all your people may experience them in abundance. May those who come after us truly say, they were given much, but they gave more in return. Hear our prayer, O God, and give us strength for the task of this day. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will call the roll. All those present will please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Thursday, March 8, 2012.
The senator from southeastern Fairfax County, Senator Puller, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 6.
Ayes 34, noes 6. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move we waive any readings that I'd move that we waive any communications we have received from the House of Delegates.
Thank you, sir. The question is, shall the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 34, noes 5, Rule 36-1. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communications from His Excellency the Governor.
We do not have any, sir.
The time has arrived to recognize visitors to the Capitol and take up other matters in the morning hour. The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask you to give a warm welcome to our minister for the day, the Reverend John Parks and his wife Tanya from Kenbridge at Kenbridge Baptist Church.
Thank you, Senator. If the Reverend John Parks and Tanya Parks would rise. We are delighted to have both of you visiting with us here at the Capitol today, and Reverend especially, thank you for being here to get our day off on the right foot with a word of prayer. We appreciate that very much. I'd ask the members to join in giving them a warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Mr. President, I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in the gallery today, I'd like to introduce some good friends of mine, the Zelazny family, all the way up from Fredericksburg. Their oldest son, Connell, actually interned in my office this year. He is accompanied by his dad, Mark, Wendy, and his younger brother, Declan, who has aspirations to serve in our office in a few years. Mr. President, I would ask you to extend the warm welcome of the Senate to the Zelazny family.
Thank you, Senator. If the members of the Zelazny family would rise. We do welcome you to the Capitol today. Thank you for taking some time to come and spend a little bit of your day with us here in the Senate, and we hope you have a wonderful time visiting with us here in Richmond. I'd ask the members to join in giving them a warm welcome of the Senate. The junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction, and the introduction relates to the senator from Fauquier County's family. And I'd just like to comment, as I introduce them, that there is probably no mother that I have seen who has been more absolutely dedicated to her family during this session. I've watched her rushing back and forth home to spend as much time as she could with those children, and yet she's working day and night. I have no idea how on earth she manages to juggle as much as she does and do it with such enormous grace. So anyway, with that, I would like to introduce her beautiful family. She has 4.5 children. And I won't introduce the
I think, Senator,
youngest
it's
one.
like 4 3/4 children at this point.
3 and 4, 3 and 8/9, I believe. And anyway, you've met two of them earlier, Alex, who is age 11, Will, who is age 8, Jack, who is age 6, and then we have Taz, who is age 3. They are accompanied by Bree Joy Edwards, who is their nanny, who has been just busy, and she is praying for an end to this session. And then, of course, Trish, who is a wonderful aide and just has been a blessing to us and great help to me as I have started to get underway here. But anyway, I would ask that we welcome them to the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. If all of the children of the senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel, would rise. We are delighted to have you all visiting with us here. You look very nice up there this morning in the gallery, and we hope you have a great time visiting with us and watching your mom in action here on the floor of the Senate. I'd ask the members to join in giving them a warm welcome to the Capitol. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise for a point of introduction, sir.
Senator has the floor.
It seems to be a day for family-related matters, and Mr. President, I'd appreciate it if you would extend a very warm welcome from the Senate of Virginia to some family members of our page, Meg Graham. In the gallery today are her mother, Beth Graham, who's enormously proud of what her daughter has done. But also her grandmother is here, Mabel Stevens, and her cousin, Nancy Motley. If you'd be so kind to welcome them to the Senate of Virginia, sir.
Thank you, Senator. If Beth Graham and Mabel Stevens and Nancy Motley would rise. We do over here. Yeah, we do welcome you to the Capitol today. Thank you for coming and spending a little bit of your time with us here in Richmond. And Beth, especially, thanks for letting us use your daughter during the session this year. We promise to give her back about noon tomorrow. I'd ask the members to join in giving them all a warm welcome to the Capitol. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
In the gallery today, we have a very special family to those of us in Alexandria. Former Senator Bob Calhoun is with us, and those who haven't had the pleasure of serving with Senator Calhoun should know that he has been designated an official Alexandria living legend, and he's accompanied by Mrs. Sandy Calhoun and his grandson, Thomas Calhoun, 12, who's in the 6th grade, and Thomas tells me that if he's not an NFL player, that he may become a senator.
Thank you, Senator. If Bob and Sandy Calhoun and Thomas would rise, we do welcome you all to the Capitol today. Thanks for coming to spend a little bit of your time with us. And Bob, it is good to see you. The members may not know, during my first session in the Senate, I actually inherited Senator Calhoun's old office. And when I inherited that office, there were numerous holes in the wall. And it became very apparent to me that serving as a senator was not easy. How those holes got there, I will never know. But Bob, we're delighted to have you here today, along with other members of your family. I'd ask the members to join in giving them a warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, in our gallery today, we have another set of parents of one of our pages, and I must say this year we've had a great set of pages, and I was especially proud when I got the call from Madam Clerk to call this family to let them know that their lovely daughter would be one of our pages for this session. Of course, I'm talking about Kristen Harper Edwards, our page from the great city of Danville. She is a shining light from Danville. And her parents join us today. Miss Christy Edwards and Mr. Darrell Harper are with us. And Mr. President, I would ask that you extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. If Christy Edwards and Darrell Harper would rise. We do welcome you both to the Capitol today. Thank you for making the trip up from Danville to spend a little bit of your day with us here in Richmond. And likewise, we thank you for letting us have the use of your daughter during the session this year. They have done a great job. I'd ask the members to join in giving them a warm welcome of the Senate. The senior senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of the junior senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin, and myself, I'm pleased to call to your attention the presence in the gallery of a group of students from North Star Academy located in Henrico County. Mr. President, this is a very special, small, private school for students with a broad range of disabilities, dedicated to educating the whole child academically, physically, emotionally, and socially in a very unique way that meets their needs best. There are seniors visiting with us today from North Star Academy with their teachers, Alana Walker, Nancy Creasy, Jessica West, and their advisor from the organization known as GRASP, who is dedicated to helping young people achieve greatness after secondary education, Paula Buckley. So if you would give a warm welcome to these students and their teachers and advisors.
Thank you, Senator. If all of our guests from North Star Academy would rise. We do welcome you to Mr. Jefferson's Capitol. Thank you for coming to learn a little bit more about the Virginia General Assembly and the state capitol and see the legislature in action. We hope that you have a wonderful time here today, but it's also a learning time for you. I'd ask the members to join in giving them a warm welcome to the Capitol. The junior senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
Mr. President, I rise for unanimous consent.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in November of this year, we lost a young lady by the name of Amari Denise Johnson to a peanut allergy. And as you all know, the Senate has been, as well as the House, has passed the EpiPen legislation. I will tell you, I did not have the courage to call Mrs. Johnson when that legislation was drafted because she had just recently lost her daughter. She was kind enough to contact the office and ask that this Senate resolution be put in to celebrate the life of her daughter, and has also asked that if we would be kind enough to, as that legislation winds its way to the governor's desk, refer to it as Amari's Law. She's been very touched by our efforts, and she thanks us.
Okay, thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate grant unanimous consent for the introduction of the resolution as described by the junior senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate grants unanimous consent for the introduction of the resolution. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two announcements to make this morning. First, I would like to give the update or the final report on our fundraiser for the Massey Cancer Center, particularly since we're under new management now. I need to report how successful we were this year. We actually were able to raise a new grand total, a record for us, $11,326. So I want to thank everyone for participating, particularly our pages this year participated by being at the event, being very enthusiastic, and they also contributed. You may not be aware, but some of our pages are becoming fairly wealthy. They have been working the southwest corner of the Senate floor, and although they've been subjected to some bad influences perhaps in that corner, the tips have allowed a couple of them to open investment accounts. So they have been able to give generously to this effort. The other and very important fact, Mr. President, is that the Senate did indeed outraise the House with combined totals of pages and Senate members. We had significantly more this year, which is a great thing for us. I want to thank everybody, and we beat them this year, so hopefully we can do that next year. Of course, the important thing is that we had some fun and raised quite a bit of money for the Massey Cancer Center, so thank everyone. The next announcement that I have, Mr. President, is a good thing. You may have noticed on your, a very good thing. The other one was a good thing. This is very good, too. Just good things. Today, I didn't know that stressed spelled backwards was desserts. Did you all know that? I just was reading that on my desk here today. You might think about that. Some of us have been stressed at times over the last couple of months, but my announcement at this point in time is actually a commendation of all the cows of the Commonwealth, Mr. President, and what they've been able to do for us over time. The Maryland Virginia Milk Producers Association, along with the Virginia Agribusiness Council, are sponsoring, as they did last year, a little freezer in the back room there. So we have available to us today, courtesy of these two groups, an assortment of ice cream bars. So I think we will be able to partake over the next 2 days of that. And we want to extend the thanks to these two groups, in addition to all the cows who gave, to enable us to enjoy these ice cream treats. And Mr. President, I hope you have milk.
Thank you, Senator. That will not fit in well with my diet, I can tell you that. But the senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I rise for two matters. Also in the gallery, if you'd be so kind to extend another very warm welcome to the family of our page Ian Turner. In the gallery is Mrs. Diana Turner, Mr. Tracy Turner, Emma, the sister, and Lem, the brother. So if you would welcome those, sir.
Thank you, Senator. If all the members of the Turner family would rise, we do welcome you. Thank you all for being here to spend a little bit of your day with us in Richmond in advance of, I'm sure, the program that we will have in the morning for the pages. We appreciate you being here. I'd ask the members to join in giving the members of the Turner family the warm welcome of the Senate. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the privileges of the floor be extended to certain distinguished persons who are extraordinarily valuable to us as the Senate of Virginia.
Thanks, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the privileges of the floor granted to certain distinguished persons? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The rules are suspended, and the privileges of the floor are granted to certain distinguished persons. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have the honor of presenting to you a Senate Resolution number 18 commending Nathan Hatfield. Nathan, as all of you know, is the Assistant Clerk of the Senate here in Virginia. He's distinguished himself in many, many respects, and we thought it would be fitting for us to offer a resolution to recognize and commend him. So, Madam Clerk, if you would read Senate Resolution number 18.
Clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution number 18, commending Nathan Hatfield. Whereas Nathan Hatfield, Assistant Clerk of the Senate, serves as the Associate Vice President of the American Society of Legislative Clerks and Secretaries for 2011 and 12. And whereas the ASLCS was founded in 1943 to improve legislative administration and establish better communication among clerks, secretaries, and their staffs throughout the United States and its territories. And whereas in 1974, the ASLCS was one of several state legislative groups to form the National Conference of State Legislatures, and the Society remains the most active of NCSL's 10 staff sections. And whereas the ASLCS has a membership of over 300 principal clerks and secretaries, as well as legislative support staff representing all 50 states and several United States territories. And whereas since attending his first ASLCS professional development program in 2002, Nathan Hatfield has been an active member in the Society's many programs and seminars, serving as a facilitator in breakout sessions held during the Society's Professional Development Annual Meeting, and traveling to Oregon to observe the inner workings of the state legislature as a participant of the 2005 Associate Exchange Program. And whereas Nathan Hatfield has spent countless hours working to provide a forum in which clerks and secretaries can meet and learn from one another in his role as Vice Chair of the Program Development Committee and as the Vice Chair of the Membership and Communication Committee. And whereas prior to his election as Associate Vice President, Nathan Hatfield worked assiduously to advance the skills and professionalism of ASLCS members as co-chair of the Professional Journal Committee and as an appointed associate member 2009-2010 and as an elected associate member 2010-2011 on the ASLCS Executive Committee. And whereas with his characteristic dedication and enthusiasm, Nathan Hatfield will continue to represent the Commonwealth with distinction as the Associate Vice President of ASLCS for 2011-2012. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of Virginia that Nathan Hatfield be hereby commended and congratulated on his selection as Associate Vice President of the American Society of Legislative Clerks and Secretaries. And be it resolved further that the Clerk of the Senate prepare a copy of this resolution for presentation to Nathan Hatfield as an expression of the Senate of Virginia's appreciation for his exemplary service to the Senate and his commitment to his profession.
Senior Senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Mr. President, Nathan is joined today with his mother and father as we help commend him.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh, will please escort Nathan Hatfield, along with John Hatfield and Donna Hatfield, to the dais for presentation of the resolution as they receive a warm welcome of the Senate. Come on up here. We got enough room. You know, one of the things that I think all of us who serve in the Senate know is that we have a great staff. Not just the desk staff, but certainly the desk staff is a great staff. But everybody who works on this Senate team, from the clerk's office to the committee office, everybody just does a fantastic job, and they are indispensable to our ability to do the tremendous volume of work that gets done in a 45-day session or a 60-day session. What I think we sometimes fail to understand is how involved in and respected our staff is among similar staffs across the country. And we know that Madam Clerk and other members of her team have held numerous offices in national organizations. I think it's safe to say that a lot of states around the country, when they want to figure out how to do something the right way, they look to Virginia. And in large part, that reputation is because of just the wonderful team that we've been able to develop there. So it's great today to be able to recognize a couple members of our team, Nathan being the first, on the accomplishments that they've achieved. In Nathan's case, serving as the Associate Vice President of the American Society of Legislative Clerks and Secretaries. So we're proud of you. We're proud of that accomplishment. We thank you for the service that you provide. And I especially thank you because you guys are great in helping me do what I do. So it is an honor for me to present this resolution to you on behalf of the members of the Senate. Senate will stand at ease. Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, it's my distinct pleasure to present our staff person, Michael Adams, and SJR 19. Mr. President, yesterday we voted on the resolution, and I talked a little bit about Michael, but I'll refresh the members' recollection. He is the staff chairperson for NCSL, which is the highest honor that a member of the staff or clerk's office can achieve through that organization. And I would ask Madam Clerk to read the resolution.
Thanks, Senator. Clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution Number 19, commending Michael P. Adams. Whereas Michael P. Adams, Director of Strategic Planning for the Senate Clerk's Office, serves as staff chair of the Executive Committee of the National Conference of State Legislatures for 2011-2012, and whereas NCSL is a bipartisan organization that serves the nation's 7,382 state lawmakers and 25,000 legislative staff, providing research, technical assistance, and opportunities for legislative members and staff to share resources regarding current and emerging state issues. And whereas a native of Colorado, Michael Adams began his legislative career with the Colorado General Assembly in 1990 and was named the Director of Legislative Information Services for the Colorado General Assembly in 2001. And whereas in 2011, Michael Adams joined the staff of the Virginia Senate Clerk's Office to spearhead the office's strategic planning initiative and make recommendations to current policies, procedures, and technologies to ensure that the Senate of Virginia continues to have the talent and tools it needs to fulfill its mission to the people of the Commonwealth. And whereas since attending his first NCSL Legislative Summit in 1995, Michael Adams has built a solid and respected reputation in the organization. He served on numerous standing committees and held several leadership positions prior to his election as staff chair, including vice chair 2011 to 2002 and chair 2002-2003 of the National Association of Legislative Information Technology Staff, and staff vice chair 2010 and 2011 of the NCSL Executive Committee. And whereas as staff chair, Michael Adams plans to continue his ongoing effort towards strengthening the spirit of stewardship in state houses and capitals across the country, and whereas Michael Adams' professional career reflects a commitment to excellence and a dedication to achieving the highest standards for legislative efficiency and effectiveness, therefore be it resolved by the Senate of Virginia that Michael P. Adams be hereby commended and congratulated on his election to the position of staff chair of the Executive Committee of the National Conference of State Legislatures, and be it resolved further that the Clerk of the Senate prepare a copy of this resolution for presentation to Michael P. Adams as an expression of the Senate of Virginia's appreciation for his strategic planning for the Senate and longstanding participation in NCSL.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal, will please escort Michael Adams to the dais for presentation of the resolution as he receives the warm welcome of the Senate. Well, first of all, let the journal reflect everything I said when I was talking applies to Michael, too. I mean, you know, again, it's a great recognition for a member of our staff who's being recognized at the national level. I've enjoyed getting to know Michael here over the last year or so and working with him. It struck me, however, that after 11 years in Colorado, you had to come to Virginia to get this recognition, and I think that's just both fitting and appropriate. But again, Michael's a very important part of a very good team, and it is a tremendous credit to his ability and hard work that he now has the privilege of serving as the staff chair of the Executive Committee of the National Conference of State Legislators. So it is my pleasure to present this resolution to you, Michael, on behalf of the members of the Senate. Senate will stand at ease. Now to both of them, get back to work. We'll stand at ease. Mention it, though, the position that Michael now holds is actually the third person from Virginia, including Madam Clerk, who has held that position. That's a great accomplishment. Are there other matters for the morning hour? Senate will come to order. Pursuant to Rule 19 of House Joint Resolution Number 5, the Senate will now proceed to the joint and continuing order relating to judicial elections. The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 19 of HJR 5, I move that the Senate do now suspend the special joint continuing order relating to judicial resolutions until Saturday, March the 10th, 2012, at the conclusion of the morning hour.
The question is, pursuant to Rule 19 of House Joint Resolution Number 5, shall the Senate now suspend the joint and continuing order relating to judicial elections until Saturday, March 10, 2012, at the conclusion of the morning hour? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The special and continuing order is suspended until Saturday, March 10th at the conclusion of the morning hour. Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules, discharge the Committee on Rules, waive the readings, and take up for immediate consideration HJR 531.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Rules discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the reading of the titles be waived, and House Joint Resolution Number 531 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will please read the title of the resolution.
House Joint Resolution Number 531, providing for legislation to be carried over from the 2012 regular session to a 2012 special session of the General Assembly.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members have on their desk the resolution, and I'll point out a couple things, and then I'm going to have a parliamentary inquiry for the chair. The resolution asks, notwithstanding the rules, so in essence that we suspend the rules, that we, and pursuant to Section 7, Article 4 of the Constitution, that we be allowed to take up in special session that would be this year, 2012, two House bills, House Bill 1300 and 1301, which the members might be aware of are the House bills sent to us involving the budget, which were typically HB 29 and 30, and so 1300 is for the current biennium that we're in, and the 1301 is for the next biennium. And Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, because our Senate rules specifically state that we cannot carry over legislation from one session except to an odd number session, what vote would passage of this resolution require?
Senator, with the rules being suspended would require a 2/3 vote for passage.
Mr. President, further inquiry.
Senator has the floor.
For this to pass, we will require at least 27 votes.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with that explanation, I would move that the resolution pass.
Question?
Mr. President.
Junior Senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
I mean no harm to the resolution and intend to support it, but I would ask the senator if he would yield for a question.
Will the senator from Hanover yield for a question?
Mr. President, I'd yield.
The senator yields. Junior Senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
Mr. President, I would ask the senator to help me out and to explain to me, if he can, what the topic for this special session will be.
The senator from Hanover, Senator
Or
McDougal.
topics.
Mr. President, the special session has not yet been called. What this resolution would be for is to say that a bill, these specific bills, could be carried over from the regular session to a special session. There would have to be a resolution either agreed to by the House and the Senate with the required supermajorities, or one sent down from the governor to call a special session, and then we would have to agree on the parameters of the special session. This resolution does not speak to that. This resolution only gives us the ability to carry over these specific bills to a special session that is yet to be established.
Further question, Mr.
Senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
I thank the senator, and let me ask the question more pointedly. At what point in time does the senator envision us establishing the parameters of the special session, and will it include judicial appointments?
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I would anticipate that probably between now and the close of the regular session at midnight tomorrow, so less than 24 or about 24 hours, that a special session would either be requested by this body or requested by the governor to deal specifically with the budget, and I would anticipate judicial selection would be included in that special session.
I thank the senator.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, to reply a little more directly to the inquiry from the junior senator from Henrico, there have been some discussions with our brethren down the hall, and it would be my expectation, consistent with other special sessions, that we will narrow the considerations that can be taken up by that special session. It would be my expectation, based on these discussions, that it would be limited to budgetary matters, judicial elections, memorial and commending resolutions.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The resolution is agreed to. Clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Friday, March the 9th, 2012. Bills in conference. Conference Committee report on House Bill 9.
The senator from Chesterfield, Senator Martin.
Move that we adopt the conference committee report. House Bill 9, speaking to the motion, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
House Bill 9 was conformed to Senate Bill 1 as it came out of the Senate. I think that you will remember that to be the voter ID bill.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Bath County, Senator Deeds.
President, I just would like to remind people that this bill could add tens of thousands of votes that are going to have to be counted the next day. They're going to this bill is going to add a burden to our election officials and to our local governments. And it could potentially disenfranchise tens of thousands of people. An example of the kind of person who could be disenfranchised from this bill is a person like my grandmother, who's been gone from this world for a long time, but she never missed an election. She spent the last 7 or 8 years of her life being shuffled around from nursing home to nursing home. She didn't drive for probably the last 15 years of her life. And in terms of ID, while she held on to just about everything, I'm not certain what she had, what sort of identification that would fit in this bill she had. And there are plenty of people like that who perhaps their most productive years are behind them. They're living away from home. They've been moving around from nursing home to nursing home. They don't have any identification. Those are the people that are potentially going to be disenfranchised by this bill. Poor people, people of color, older people. This is not a step in the right direction for Virginia. In my view, this is a step that takes us back to dark days when many people were disenfranchised in this Commonwealth, and I hope we won't accept the conference report.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak in opposition.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I voted against House Bill 9 and Senate Bill 1. There was an important element in the House bill, which apparently if we accept the Senate amendment, we are now losing, and that was the registrar would actually, looking at signature samples, would try and match up the actual affidavit or the signature that they would get from the disenfranchised voter and see if they could actually decide whether or not that was the person they represented to be. That is now being taken out, and the voter is being required to make a second trip to the polling location with the ID. So not only are we, in my opinion, passing a bad bill, we're making it worse by accepting the Senate amendment. In addition to that, I'm looking at this conference committee report, and I happen to notice there's not a single person on it from this side of the aisle. Now, this is a 2020 body, and we have an 8-7 privileges in elections, and not a single person from this side of the aisle was on this conference committee. Again, that may be acceptable with our current rules, but I don't think it's very good legislation or a very good product from this body, so I'm going to vote against it. I ask others to join me.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion, Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Martin.
President, just quickly, on the issue raised by the senator from Bath County, no matter your situation, no matter your age, no matter where you live, no matter whether you have any of the other IDs, whether you're a student, you're at student IDs, or whether or not you've got paying utility bills, all of those things. One thing that you have been issued is a voter ID card. And if you can't find that, then you can have it reissued to you on the spot and then show it. So this should not be an issue. But I appreciate the concern, and if I shared the concern, then I wouldn't support it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Louisa, Senator Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking in favor of the bill, I would
Senator
point
has
out.
the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would point out that this bill was originally modeled after the Help America Vote Act, which has a more narrow list of identification options than the current bill in its current form does, and it's a pretty significantly more narrow list. I would also point out that the Help America Vote Act passed federally. The vote was 92-2 in the United States Senate and 357-48 in the House. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 20.
The ayes are 20, the noes are 20. The chair votes aye. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Conference committee report on House Bill 101.
The senator from Harrisonburg, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the conference committee report. Speaking to it.
Senator has the floor.
This is the conference committee report on the Virginia Rules of Evidence. The primary change that was adopted by the conference committee is a provision that provides that in the event of any amendment or addition to the rules of evidence being promulgated by the Supreme Court of Virginia, that they have to be promulgated by December 15 of any year. They will be effective on July 1st of the following year unless the General Assembly modifies or annuls any amendment. It gives the General Assembly an opportunity in between the promulgation of any changes and the effective date to take appropriate action to change or alter the course chosen by the Supreme Court of Virginia.
Thanks, Senator from Hanover. Senator McDougall.
Mr. President, speaking to the conference report.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, if members of the body notice, I dissented on this conference report, and it was for a specific reason, and that is the makeup of how the decision will be made. As the senator from Harrisonburg accurately indicated, Supreme Court will have to promulgate those rules on or before December 15th, and then a member of this body or the one down the hall, if the rules were not acceptable, would have to introduce legislation. The legislation would have to pass both the Senate and the House and go to the governor to overturn any decision the court would make. Mr. President, it was my position, and I think a better one for this body would have been to have the rules promulgated before our pre-filing deadline, that a member of this body would have to then propose that rule. This body would have to agree to that rule. The House would have to agree to the rule, and then the governor would have to sign off, so that these rules would not be changed unless we agreed to those. So it is a different way to come to the same conclusion, but I think one that we are giving up a tremendous amount in making decisions about what evidence will be allowed into court, and thus the effect of people's liberty and property, and that we are abdicating an ability we have to make that decision on the front end instead of responding to bad decisions that we might not agree of, and then we would have to change it. So as a result of that, Mr. President, I ask that the members of this body reject the conference report, put us back into conference, let us change that portion of it so that we could be in control of the process going forward instead of having to react to it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I rise in support of the conference committee report. This bill, like Senate Bill 94, that has an identical conference committee report that will be coming up on page 9, is a code commission bill. And as the senator from Harrisonburg properly pointed out, the accommodation between the Senate version and the House version is to make sure there is General Assembly oversight and any amendments or modifications of the rules that will be adopted as a result of this. It provides that the Supreme Court must, if they're going to change the rules at all or amend or add rules, must adopt them before the 15th of December to go into effect July the 1st. So this General Assembly will have at all times oversight during the General Assembly session whether to change the rule, to annul, to modify, or in some way change the rule that the Supreme Court of Virginia has adopted, because there'll be plenty of time, over 6 months, before the rule will go into effect. In addition, there's another change that is important that the House wanted, and that is we're not repealing any code provision. No code provisions affecting the rules. The substance of the rules will be repealed, unlike the original bill that came out. The idea of the original bill was to repeal some of the code provisions because they're in the rules and therefore be duplicative. What the House wanted, and we've accommodated this, is to provide a citation of the code provision in the rule. So a person can look at the rule and then go back to the code provision to make sure that if they want to make some argument regarding that. This is an extremely important bill, Mr. President. The rules of evidence have been studied since 1986, beginning with the Boyd Graves Conference, and the Supreme Court strongly supports this. Every statewide bar group strongly supports this bill. This is not the federal rules. These are Virginia's rules. There are 48 states that have already adopted rules of evidence. The federal rules of evidence were adopted in 1975. Only 2 states did not have rules of evidence, Virginia and, oddly, our sister state, Massachusetts. The benefits to the bench and bar, to judges and practitioners, is enormous. Right now, in order to research the rules of evidence, you have to go through sometimes hundreds and hundreds of case law decisions, as well as the handful of code provisions that have changed the rules of evidence over the years. This will put in one source the rules of evidence of Virginia to make it so much easier for lawyers and judges to research the rules of evidence, and will provide a more consistent application of the rules of evidence from court to court. Mr. President, I strongly urge this body adopt the conference committee report and House Bill 101.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the body, I'm going to sort of break with tradition, and I'm going to disagree with some folks and agree with some other folks I have strong respect for. I actually want to associate with the remarks from the gentleman from Hanover. I believe that it's inappropriate to give a presumption to any rule that's passed by the Supreme Court and say, well, the only way we can overturn that rule is if we say that both the House, the Senate, and the governor are going to have to oppose the prohibition of that rule. I think that makes no sense. The bottom line is we have a code in place. We have a common law in place. To say that the Supreme Court should issue a rule and that will be the law of Virginia unless this body, the House, and the governor all agree otherwise, I think is to basically misunderstand the purpose of this General Assembly. Our purpose is to set the laws of this Commonwealth. The rules of evidence are indeed substantive laws. Look at laws such as the marital privilege, the pastor-penitent privilege, the attorney-client privilege. These go to the actual values and substance of the way we live our lives. They're not just procedural rules. I think it's important that we vest or maintain control of these rules of evidence within our own body. I realize we have some dissent even within the red light district back here in the back row, but the bottom line is I do associate with the earlier remarks from the gentleman from Hanover.
The senator from Harrisonburg, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I would simply point out that right now, we're a common law state, and our rules of evidence are largely composed by the Supreme Court of Virginia. Every once in a while, the General Assembly gets involved in rulemaking, and we do have kind of a collection of rules that are in Title 8.01 of the Code. But for the most part, if you're looking for the rules of evidence in Virginia, you pull off of the shelf the Charles Friend treatise on evidence, which is kind of a compilation of common law and statutory law. We've long since we've long ago relegated this responsibility to the Supreme Court. We're trying to organize it in the rules of evidence that we're adopting here. Quite frankly, it's taken a long time to get to the point of organizing these rules and putting them in, or getting to a point where we may be able to put them in the code. They are constructed on the basis of the construction of the decisions made by the Supreme Court of Virginia. This doesn't take away the prerogative of the General Assembly. It's going to work largely the same way it's always worked before. Supreme Court simply in the past has issued opinions addressing evidentiary issues. Those became the rules of evidence. And very often, members of the General Assembly have looked at those and said, gee whiz, I disagree with that. And they roll down to Richmond and introduce a piece of legislation that changes the rules of evidence, very often in a haphazard way that has really created kind of a fascinating patchwork of rules of evidence that we have in the code now. I would respectfully submit that this is a way of trying to organize it, and it really functionally does not change the status quo in terms of development of the rules of evidence. So I would ask that this be adopted.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, if no one else wishes to speak.
Well, there is one.
But then
Would you like to wait?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator from Bath County, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, first I want to commend the senator from Roanoke City, who I know has worked on this issue for many years. And I find it distressing that on the conference report, no one from this side of the aisle is represented. I don't understand how things like that happen. But having said that, the gentleman from, or the senator from Hanover is exactly right. It's that this is about balance of power. I disagree with my friend from Harrisonburg that we have given this authority to the Supreme Court years ago. This is about maintaining a sense of the balance of power between the legislative and judicial branches. Many of my friends over the years have talked in judicial interviews that I don't get to participate in anymore about radical liberal judges. And we've talked about maintaining a sense of the prerogative of the legislature and making the laws of the Commonwealth. So why in the world would we want to turn over a substantive area of the law to the courts? And that's exactly what we're doing with this legislation. That's my point. I intend to vote against the conference report.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, speaking to the motion one last time, and Mr. President, as my seatmate was conversing with me, I just wanted to make sure my position was clear. My hope would be that we would defeat this conference report, be able to come back with a second conference report that fixes the concern I have, and that is ensuring that the legislature gets to make the decision about new rules going into place through an affirmative process instead of the reactionary process that we would have now. So I agree in part with my colleagues from Roanoke and from Harrisonburg in that putting forth rules of evidence is a process that we should go forward now, but making sure that all future rules are decided by this body. The gentleman from Southern Fairfax and from Bath County, we all agree on that as well. And again, I would ask that you vote against the conference report.
Thank you, sir. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I hope this will be the last on this issue, but I do want to make it clear this bill does not change any substantive rule of evidence at all. The Supreme Court's made it very clear, and if you go through, you could read them, the rules themselves. It just makes no substantive change, nor does it change the prerogative this body has always had and has at the present time, in the past and will have in the future, to modify or change by legislation any rule of evidence. It does nothing. If we do nothing now, it does not change what the General Assembly's prerogative and power is currently. So with that, I urge the body to adopt this conference report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 29.
Ayes 11, noes 29. The Senate rejects the conference committee report. Sergeant at Arms, please receive it. Welcome, Delegate. Thank you, Delegate.
Conference Committee report on House Bill 183.
The Senator from Grayson County, Senator Carrico.
Mr. President, this is the conference committee report on House Bill 183. I'd ask that the committee, or I'd ask the body to accept the conference committee report dealing with access to medical care for the pregnant women of children of legal aliens in the United States, or in Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator, question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Conference Committee report on House Bill 349.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that we adopt the conference committee report What this House Bill 349 does is it deals with the continuation of the Commission on the War of 1812. The Senate put the proverbial clause on it. Upon further discussion, we found that the Commission has not been that active and that stressful on the finances. We removed the clause, and the funding on the Commission is coming out of the Senate Clerk's office, and more is coming out of the House Clerk's office.
Thanks, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the Conference Committee report? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll. Clerk will strike the board. The question is, shall the Senate adopt the Conference Committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate adopts the Conference Committee report.
Conference Committee report on House Bill 391.
The Senator from Harrisonburg, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I ask this to go by temporarily.
Without objection, House Bill 391 will go by temporarily.
Conference Committee report on House Bill 424.
Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the Conference Committee report. And speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Found in your amendments folder with regard to House Bill 424, there was a technical amendment which we all agreed to do. As you can see on line 7, striking there to, unstriking shall, and striking may. So we're making the self-authentication mandatory instead of using the word may. As I've learned from the junior senator from Henrico, shall means shall and may means may. So I would move the adoption based on that.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the Conference Committee report? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate adopts the Conference Committee report. Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I would move that the Senate now agree to request or ask the House to request a second committee of conference on HB 101.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate request a second committee of conference on House Bill 101? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Thank you, Senator.
Conference Committee report on House Bill 599.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
Mr. President, can that go by temporarily?
Without objection, House Bill 599 will go by temporarily.
Conference Committee report on $1262 on page 7.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Smith.
Yes, Mr. President, I ask that the Conference Committee report be adopted. And the difference in the House and the Senate version of this was there was compromise between how many years of experience was required to be exempt from licensing requirement. We had asked for 5, they asked for 10, we agreed to 8 years.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the Conference Committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 5.
Ayes 35, noes 5. The Senate adopts the Conference Committee report.
Page 8,
Mr.
Conference
President.
Committee report.
Junior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
Mr. President, could we return back to House Bill 599, please, sir? Page 3.
Okay, Senator, if we could come back to that we'll come back to that at the end, if that's okay.
Page 8, Conference Committee Report on House Joint Resolution 50.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Joint Resolution 50 dealt with the study by VIMS on the areas prone to flooding in the Hampton Roads and Eastern Shore region. What we did by removing the Senate amendment, make it look identical to the resolution from the junior senator from Norfolk, and with that explanation, it passed out of this body, I believe, 40-0. With that explanation, I move that we accept the conference committee report.
Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Page 9, Conference Committee Report on Senate Bill 94.
The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, can that go by temporarily?
Without objection, Senate Bill 94 will go by temporarily.
Page 10, Conference Committee Report on Senate Bill 135.
Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Martin. Pardon?
Yield to Senator Puller.
Senator from Southeastern Fairfax County, Senator Puller.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was the bill that established the all-payer claims database, and this is the amendment in the nature of a substitute that was on Delegate O'Bannon's bill. Finally, the parties that were in disagreement came together and worked very hard and came up with that substitute. And this is the same substitute as Delegate O'Bannon's bill. And it's a voluntary database. The bill started out as a mandatory, so there was a lot of give and take on this, and I would move that we accept the conference committee report.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Conference Committee Report on Senate Bill 217.
The senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, move that we adopt the conference committee report and explaining that.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, there was a minor adjustment in the conference committee report that allows local school divisions, this is dealing with kinship care and student attendance enrollment in schools there, and it allows the local school division to have or documentation of the appropriateness of the kinship care arrangement to be required from both the Social Services Department where the parent lives and also the Social Services Department where the kinship care provider lives.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Page 12, Conference Committee Report on Senate Bill 531.
Junior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we accept the report. Senate Bill 531 is the same as House Bill 559 on page 3 from a minute ago, but I'd like to yield to the senator from Western Fairfax County.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also urge that we accept the conference report. This deals with evaluation of transportation projects in Northern Virginia and make sure that what we're doing is prioritizing congestion relief. And we entered into extensive conference negotiations on this. And I think each side got what they wanted. It was important for me to make sure there was ongoing collaboration with the Northern Virginia Transit Authority. And it was also important to me that we spread the costs out for VDOT over 4 years instead of asking them to do it all at once. And I think on the House side, we got a list list of projects that were important to them, and I think it's a good conference report, and I urge you to support it.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President,
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
a procedural question, Mr. President. Does that also take care of House Bill 599?
No, Senator, we'll need to come back to that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Conference committee report on Senate Bill 568.
Senator from Grayson County, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is conference committee report, same as the House Bill 183 that we just passed, and it's taken off the clause that was put on by the Senate, and I ask that we accept the conference committee report.
Thanks, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Conference committee report on Senate Bill 662 on page 14.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Smith.
Mr. President, this is the same as House Bill 262 was just described regarding who may be exempt from license requirement regarding septic tank installations.
Thanks, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 5.
Ayes 35, noes 5. The Senate adopts the conference committee report. We could return to page 3, House Bill 391. Senator from Harrisonburg, Senator Obenshain.
President, I move that we adopt the conference committee report. This is a bill that deals with providing for the sharing of juvenile records with state and local correctional facilities. It simply adopts the House provision, which ensures an additional assurance of privacy with respect to those records after these juveniles become adults.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? The junior senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Will the senator from Harrisonburg yield for a question?
Absolutely.
Senator yield. Junior senator from Henrico, Senator McEachin.
Mr. President, I'm trying to make sure I don't have this bill confused with another, which is the purpose of my question. Is this the bill that deals with juvenile records and the sex registry?
The senator from Harrisonburg, Senator Obenshain.
I'm reading the provisions here. No, I would respond to the gentleman that it is not specific to the sex offenders.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, sir. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate adopts the conference committee report. Also on page 3 of the calendar, House Bill 599. Junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the conference committee report, and having previously been explained by the senator from Western Fairfax County, I ask that we adopt the report.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I wanted to have something reconsidered, so you should come back to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The Senate adopts the conference committee report. And on page 9 of the calendar, Senate Bill 94. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, could I go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 94 will go by for the day. Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we could return to Senate Bill 662 on page 14, having voted on the prevailing side, by which we agreed to accept the conference committee report, I would ask that that vote please be reconsidered.
Question is, shall the Senate reconsider the vote by which it adopted the conference committee report on Senate Bill 662? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Smith.
Mr. President, having previously been described, I ask that you pass Senate Bill 662.
Question is, shall the Senate adopt the conference committee report? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 8.
Ayes 31, noes 8. The Senate adopts the conference committee report.
Senate bill with governor's recommendations, Senate Bill 503.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, what the governor's amendment does is it leaves open the possibility for an adjacent, somebody adjacent to one of the two transportation districts that currently have the metro tax to, I guess, join that and then participate in that. You currently have two districts, the Northern Virginia Transportation District, and you have the Rappahannock Transportation District. What this does is the amendment leaves it open for, anybody in an adjacent district that's not in one to join it.
Thank you, Senator. Question is, shall the Senate adopt the governor's recommendation? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The Senate adopts the governor's recommendation. Senior
Ayes.
Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
House bill with governor's recommendations, House Bill 894.
Senator from Powhatan, Senator Watkins.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I would move that we accept the amendments, the governor's amendments for House Bill 894. The amendments, Mr. President, is an emergency clause that was requested. This is the bill, if you remember, that requires the efficiency test on cost benefit for utilities implementing efficiency programs. This is necessary because the Commission will make decisions on which these programs, to approve these programs using the law that is in place when the programs are submitted to the Commission. We have several utilities right now that are pending in terms of their submission, and they are actually awaiting this legislation's passage before they will submit those plans. So the governor has requested that we put an emergency clause on so that it can spread out, if you would, the timing of those pending plans so that the Commission has adequate time to consider them for implementation beginning in January of 2014. Again, I would reiterate, I move that we accept the governor's recommendations.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
The gentleman yield for a question.
Will the Senator from Powhatan yield for a question?
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I anticipate the answer will be no, but does this have anything to do with reporting or counting under an RPS standard?
No, it does not.
Question is, shall the Senate adopt the governor's recommendation? All in favor of the motion will record the votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate adopts the governor's recommendation.
Memorial resolutions.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move that all of the memorial resolutions that are on pages 16 of the calendar, which would include House Joint Resolution 523 through House Joint Resolution 530, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolution with the understanding that any senator may remove a resolution from the block after the clerk has read the title of the resolution.
Question is, shall the memorial resolutions on page 16 of the calendar, that's House Joint Resolution 523 through House Joint Resolution 530, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolution, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 523, celebrating the life of Ivan Benton McEachin, Jr. House Joint Resolution 524, celebrating the life of Paul Schratweiser. House Joint Resolution 525, celebrating the life of John Boyd Nofsinger, Jr., Doctor of Education. House Joint Resolution 526, celebrating the life of Charles D. Glaze. House Joint Resolution 530, celebrating the life of Linwood Harold Harris.
The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions, please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Commending resolutions.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that all of the commending resolutions that are on pages 16 through 18 of the calendar, which would include House Joint Resolution 506 through Senate Joint Resolution 253, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolution with the understanding that any senator may remove a resolution from the block after the clerk has read the number of that resolution.
Question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 16 through 18, that's House Joint Resolution 506 through Senate Joint Resolution 253, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolutions 506, 507, 508, 509, 510, 511, 512, 513, 514, 515, 516, 517, 519, 520, 521, 527, Senate Joint Resolution 253.
Question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions are agreed to. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Inquiry of the clerk, does that complete the calendar, or do you have some other matters that we may take up at this time?
That completes the calendar as far as what we have to take up at this time. I have conferees to read.
Yes, ma'am.
On House Bill 101, Second Committee of Conference, conferees on the part of the Senate is named by the Chairman of Courts, Senator Norman, or Senators McDougal, Obenshain, and Edwards.
Is there other business to come before the Senate? Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, if I may have your attention just for a brief moment, please. The clerk advises me that there are approximately 36 outstanding conference committee reports, some of which obviously require the conferees to get together. The House of Delegates has recessed until 4 o'clock. So the options that are available is that we can come back later today and deal with those that are reported, or we can come back tomorrow. And it would be my recommendation that we go ahead and adjourn for the day and take those conference committee reports up tomorrow. And I expect a standing ovation from that, not just an applause. And I make that recommendation after conferring with both sides, so that would be my preference, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator. Are there other matters to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, immediately upon recess, the Committee on, upon adjournment, the Committee on Finance will meet at the Chairman's desk, Finance at the Chairman's desk, and following Finance, Courts will meet at the Chairman's desk. Courts of Justice upon the conclusion of Finance at the Chairman's desk. Tomorrow, Saturday, March 10th, the Republican caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 2. The Democratic caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 1. And a reminder again that the page ceremony will be at approximately 11 o'clock.
Senior Senator from Henrico, Senator Stosh.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate shall now adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Question is, shall the Senate now adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed? No, the ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.